What if I told you that 9 ordinary, accessible plants that you can grow in your backyard, on your patio, or even indoors, could replace 80% of your grocery bill? Not in theory. Not in some imagined future scenario. Right now. These aren't exotic specimens requiring specialized equipment. They're not genetically modified. They're not laboratory creations. They're plants that have fed entire civilizations for thousands of years. Yet today, most people have never heard of them. Supermarkets stock everything except these. Agricultural policy ignores them completely. And there are reasons for that ignorance. Strategic reasons. By the end of this video, you'll understand what those reasons are. You'll know exactly how to grow these 9 crops. And you'll understand why the industrial food system depends on you remaining ignorant of their existence. My name is your host. I run this channel to expose the plants that make people independent from industrial food systems. The ones that governments and corporations would prefer you never discover. If that mission resonates with you, if you believe food sovereignty matters, subscribe now and enable notifications. You're not just subscribing to content. You're joining a movement toward food independence. Now let's begin. The first plant is something most people throw away. Mung beans. A legume that produces more edible protein per square foot than any other crop. More than chicken. More than beef. More than any cultivated plant on earth. 1 pound of mung beans contains 24 grams of protein. That's equivalent to 4 ounces of ground beef. But mung beans offer something beef never will. Complete protein. All 9 essential amino acids. 0 cholesterol. 0 saturated fat. And they sprout. That's the critical advantage. Mung beans transform from dormant seeds into nutrient-dense sprouts in 5 to 7 days. No soil required. No sunlight. No special equipment. Mason jar. Water. That's all. 1 cup of mung bean sprouts contains 3 grams of protein. But more importantly, they contain live enzymes. Sprouting increases bioavailability. Your body actually absorbs and uses these nutrients. They don't pass through you like most plant matter does. Compare this to lettuce. Iceberg lettuce is 95% water and 0.9% protein. You eat a bowl of lettuce and you've consumed mostly liquid. Mung bean sprouts deliver density. They deliver nutrition. Yet mung beans occupy almost no space in American agriculture. The answer is economic. Mung beans are traditionally grown by small farmers. They're inexpensive to produce. They generate minimal profit margins. Agricultural consolidation demands high-margin crops, corn, soy, wheat, that are subsidized and controlled by massive corporations. Additionally, mung bean sprouting is a distributed process. You do it in your kitchen. No machinery required. No corporate intermediary. That's dangerous to agribusiness. When food production becomes decentralized, profit evaporates. Mung beans grow in USDA zones 3 through 11. They tolerate poor soil. They require minimal water. They fix nitrogen. They actually improve soil as they grow. A single 4 by 8 foot bed produces 100 pounds of dried beans annually. That's 2,400 grams of protein per bed. Propagation is simple. Plant seeds directly into soil in spring. They germinate in 5 to 7 days. By day 60, they're flowering. By day 90, pods are mature and ready to harvest. For sprouting, no soil is necessary. Take dried mung beans. Soak them 12 hours. Drain. Rinse 3 times daily for 5 to 7 days. By day 7, you have sprouts ready to eat. 1 pound of dried mung beans produces 7 to 8 pounds of sprouts. That's a 700% return. You spend $3 for a pound of organic mung beans. You produce $21 to $24 worth of fresh sprouts from that single purchase. For food independence, this is foundational. Mung beans address protein security completely. Store dried beans in cool, dark conditions and they remain viable for 10 years. They don't spoil. They don't require refrigeration. They don't depend on grocery availability. In food-insecure regions, mung bean sprouting has transformed nutrition. Organizations working in areas with limited refrigeration use sprouting as a distributed nutrition strategy. Families grow sprouts daily. No electricity required. No complex infrastructure. The second plant is called sweet potato. But that name is deceptive. Sweet potatoes aren't potatoes. They're roots. And they're among the most nutritionally complete crops available. One medium sweet potato contains 103 calories. Of those calories, 93% are carbohydrate, providing sustained energy. But the nutritional value extends far beyond calories. One sweet potato delivers 438% of your daily requirement for beta-carotene, which converts to vitamin A. It provides 65% of daily potassium, 20% of daily manganese. And it contains resistant starch, carbohydrate that feeds beneficial gut bacteria rather than spiking blood sugar. Compare this to white potatoes. White potatoes contain minimal vitamin A, minimal micronutrients. They're primarily starch with almost no nutritional complexity. Sweet potatoes are the nutritional opposite. They're dense with bioavailable nutrients. One sweet potato supplies complete nutrition that white potatoes simply cannot. Yet sweet potatoes occupy minimal space in American agriculture. Commercial production is concentrated in 5 states. Most Americans have never grown them. Most extension agents have minimal experience teaching them. This represents deliberate obscurity. Sweet potatoes thrive in conditions where wheat and corn fail. They tolerate poor soil. They require minimal fertilizer. They produce abundantly with minimal input. That independence is incompatible with industrial agriculture. Sweet potatoes grow in USDA zones 5 through 11. In colder zones, you cultivate them as annuals. In warm zones, they become semi-permanent perennials. Propagate from slips, shoots that emerge from existing tubers. Bury a sweet potato in soil in early spring. It produces slips. Take 6 to 8 inch slips and plant them directly into soil. By autumn, you harvest mature tubers. One slip produces 3 to 5 pounds of sweet potatoes. A single 4 by 8 foot bed produces 50 to 75 pounds annually. That's 5,000 to 7,500 calories per bed, sufficient to meet caloric needs for one person for 14 to 21 days. Harvest in autumn before frost. Store at 55 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit. At proper temperature and humidity, sweet potatoes store for 6 months. They don't rot. They don't spoil. They remain viable indefinitely in cool conditions. For food independence, sweet potatoes address caloric security. Combined with mung beans, they create complete nutrition. Protein from beans. Carbohydrates and micronutrients from sweet potatoes. That combination sustains life completely. The third plant is lentils. Lentils are legumes that produce dense, nutrient-complete seeds. 1 cup of cooked lentils contains 18 grams of protein. Additionally, lentils contain 15.6 grams of fiber per cup, more fiber than any breakfast cereal. They contain folate, iron, phosphorus, and compounds that support cardiovascular health. But lentils offer something most crops don't. Lentils mature in 80 to 110 days. That's faster than beans. That's faster than corn. That's faster than wheat. In a single growing season, you produce a complete harvest. Additionally, lentils fix nitrogen. They partner with soil bacteria to convert atmospheric nitrogen into plant-available form. When you grow lentils, you're simultaneously producing food and enriching soil. Lentils grow in USDA zones 3 through 9. They tolerate cold. They tolerate drought. They tolerate poor soil. They're undemanding. Plant in spring. By early autumn, pods are mature. Harvest when pods turn brown and dry. Thresh to extract seeds. Store in cool, dry conditions. Properly stored lentils remain viable for 8 to 10 years. 1 pound of seed produces 8 to 10 pounds of lentils. A 4 by 8 foot bed produces 40 to 60 pounds annually. That's 720 to 1,080 grams of protein per bed. For food independence, lentils address complete protein security. Unlike mung beans, lentils don't require sprouting. You harvest them. You store them. You cook them. Simple. Moreover, lentils combine with grains to create complete amino acid profiles. lentil and rice, lentil and buckwheat, lentil and corn. These combinations are used globally as survival foods because they work. They're complete. They sustain life indefinitely. The fourth plant is amaranth. Amaranth is a grain that's been cultivated for 8,000 years. The Aztecs revered it. Modern agriculture has abandoned it. 1 cup of cooked amaranth contains 9 grams of protein. Additionally, amaranth contains more calcium than milk, more iron than beef, more fiber than oatmeal, and it contains lysine, an amino acid that most grains lack. When combined with legumes, amaranth creates complete protein. Amaranth and beans, amaranth and lentils. These combinations are nutritionally complete. They sustain human life entirely. Amaranth grows in USDA zones 4 through 11. It tolerates heat. It tolerates drought. It tolerates poor soil. It thrives in conditions where corn fails. Plant in spring. By midsummer, plants are flowering. By early autumn, seeds are mature and ready to harvest. Harvest is labor-intensive. You cut the seed heads. You hang them to dry. You thresh them to extract seeds. One plant produces 60,000 to 100,000 seeds. That's 1 to 2 ounces of grain per plant. A 4 by 8 foot bed with 200 plants produces 200 to 400 ounces of seed, 12 to 25 pounds of grain annually. That's 45,000 to 75,000 calories per bed. Storage. Amaranth seeds remain viable for 3 to 5 years in cool, dry conditions. They don't require special processing. They cook in 20 to 25 minutes. For food independence, amaranth addresses grain security. Combined with legumes, it creates complete nutrition. It grows where commercial grains fail. It produces abundantly with minimal input. The fifth plant is chickpeas. Chickpeas are legumes that produce dense, protein-rich seeds. 1 cup of cooked chickpeas contains 15 grams of protein. Additionally, chickpeas contain resistant starch, which feeds beneficial gut bacteria. They contain compounds that support stable blood sugar and cardiovascular health. Chickpeas grow in USDA zones 3 through 10. They tolerate cold better than most legumes. They tolerate drought. They tolerate poor soil. Plant in early spring. By midsummer, plants are flowering. By early autumn, pods are mature. Harvest when pods turn brown and papery. Thresh to extract seeds. 1 plant produces 100 to 200 seeds. A 4 by 8 foot bed produces 80 to 120 pounds of chickpeas annually. Storage. Properly stored chickpeas remain viable for 8 to 10 years. They don't spoil. They don't rot. For food independence, chickpeas address protein security and nutritional diversity. Chickpeas contain different micronutrients than mung beans or lentils. Growing multiple legumes ensures broad nutritional coverage. The sixth plant is OCA. OCA is a tuber crop from the Andes. It's virtually unknown in North America. Yet it produces more calories per square foot than almost any crop. 1 pound of OCA contains 350 calories. Additionally, OCA contains more vitamin C than citrus, more iron than spinach, more calcium than milk. The nutritional density is remarkable. OCA grows in USDA zones 6 through 10. It tolerates poor soil. It requires minimal input. It produces abundantly. Propagate from tubers. Plant in spring. By autumn, tubers are mature. Harvest 50 to 100 pounds per 4 by 8 foot bed. Storage. OCA stores longer than sweet potatoes. At proper temperature and humidity, OCA stores for 8 months or more. Some varieties store for a full year. For food independence, OCA addresses caloric security. Combined with legumes and grains, it creates complete nutrition. The seventh plant is Moringa oleifera. Moringa is a tree that produces leaves continuously. 1 cup of Moringa leaves contains 2 grams of protein, 40% more than beef per ounce. It contains all 9 essential amino acids. Additionally, Moringa contains 430% of daily vitamin A, 40% of daily iron, 19% of daily calcium. The nutritional density is extraordinary. Moringa grows in USDA zones 9 through 11. In colder zones, it's grown in containers and overwintered indoors. In warm zones, it becomes a permanent fixture. Propagate from cuttings. Plant in soil. Within weeks, the cutting roots. Establish the plant. By the first year, you have harvestable leaves. Harvest continuously by pinching the growing tips. The plant branches and produces more foliage. A single tree produces 500 pounds of fresh leaves annually. Storage, dry morina leaves. Grind into powder. Dried morina powder stores for years in cool, dark conditions. For food independence, morina addresses micronutrient security. The leaves supplement any grain and legume diet with vitamins and minerals that prevent deficiency diseases. The eighth plant is watercress. Watercress is a leafy green that grows in water or consistently moist soil. 1 cup of watercress contains more calcium than milk, more iron than spinach, more vitamin K than lettuce. Additionally, watercress contains compounds called glucosinolates, compounds that support immune function and cellular health. These compounds are unique to watercress. They're not found in conventional vegetables. Watercress grows in USDA zones 3 through 11. It tolerates cold. It tolerates shade. It produces year-round in mild climates. Propagate from cuttings. Push a stem into wet soil or submerge in water. It roots within days. Once established, watercress spreads aggressively. Harvest by pinching the top third of stems. The plant branches and produces more foliage. A single 4 by 4 foot bed produces continuous harvests year-round in moderate climates. For food independence, watercress addresses leafy green security. Unlike lettuce, which requires replanting, watercress is effectively perennial. The ninth plant is cassava. Cassava is a tuber crop that produces more calories per square foot than any other crop. 1 pound of cassava root contains 400 calories. Additionally, cassava is drought tolerant. It grows in conditions where other crops fail completely. Cassava grows in USDA zones 9 through 11. In colder zones, it's grown as an annual. In warm zones, it becomes a permanent perennial. Propagate from stem cuttings. Plant in spring. By autumn, tubers are harvestable. Full maturity occurs at 18 to 24 months. Cassava tolerates poor soil. It tolerates drought. It tolerates minimal input. A single 4 by 8 foot bed produces 100 to 150 pounds annually, 40,000 to 60,000 calories per bed. Storage. Cassava stores in cool conditions for 2 to 3 weeks fresh. Dried cassava remains viable indefinitely. Processed into cassava flour, it stores for years. For food independence, cassava addresses foundational caloric security. Combined with legumes, it creates complete nutrition. These 9 plants share critical characteristics. They grow in marginal conditions. They require minimal external input. They produce abundantly. They store long-term. They're nutritionally dense. They address foundational nutritional needs, protein, calories, micronutrients. Collectively, these 9 crops could feed a family of 4 on approximately 200 to 300 square feet of land. That's a space measuring roughly 16 feet by 20 feet. For context, most suburban yards are 5,000 to 10,000 square feet. You could produce 95% of your family's nutritional needs on 3 to 6% of your available space. Yet these crops remain virtually absent from American agriculture. The answer returns to economics. Industrial agriculture profits from dependency. When you rely on supermarkets, you purchase processed foods with massive profit margins. When you rely on supplemental nutrients, you purchase products that cost more than their raw ingredients by a factor of 10 or 20. When you produce your own food, that profit evaporates. Agricultural policy, educational institutions, and food corporations have collectively normalized dependency. Supermarket shopping is presented as normal. Home food production is presented as unusual or anachronistic. That's a choice. A strategic choice. It benefits specific industries. It costs everyone else, in money, in health, in autonomy. As global food prices rise, as supply chains become less reliable, as climate volatility increases, Rediscovery of these 9 crops becomes inevitable. The only question is whether you'll be ahead of that curve or scrambling to catch up when prices double. When shortages emerge. When industrial agriculture reveals its fragility. Beginning now, you have the knowledge. You have access to seeds. You have space. The only remaining variable is commitment. Grow one crop. Master it. Expand. Build gradually. Within 2 to 3 years, you'll be producing the majority of your family's nutrition independently. That's not preparation for catastrophe. That's the recovery of ordinary self-sufficiency that humans practiced for 10,000 years before the last century of industrial dependency. You now understand what 9 crops can do for your family food security. You know their nutritional profiles. You know why they're absent from mainstream agriculture. You know exactly how to grow them. You know how they work together to create complete nutrition. Most importantly, you know that food independence is achievable. Not through complexity. Not through specialized equipment. Through knowledge. Through seeds. Through commitment. If you've grown any of these crops, if you have experience with them in your region, comment below. Share what you've learned. That information matters. It helps others make decisions. If you believe food independence is essential, if you believe people deserve to know about plants that create sovereignty rather than dependency, subscribe and enable notifications. We're building a community of people who grow their own food, who rely less on systems designed to control them, who choose independence. That's the mission here. Until next time, grow what matters. Question what you're told to ignore. Build resilience. Stay independent.